On Thanksgiving night, a table overflowed with turkey and pies I paid for. I'm Vanessa Callahan, a paralegal who paid every bill yet faced unbearable humiliation. My father's words sliced through the room, my mother avoided my eyes, and my brother smirked into his glass. And then silence drowned their whispers heavier than any insult. They thought I'd break. But those receipts, each bearing my name, would turn their perfect night into their reckoning. The smell of roasted turkey and my grandmother's pecan pie clung to the air, heavy with cinnamon and sage, when my father's voice tore through the room. "Vanessa," he said, his tone flat and cutting, "you're nothing but dead weight. And it's time you left this house." The fork froze halfway to my mouth, gravy dripping back into the potatoes. A hollow ache splintered my chest, as if their betrayal had stolen my breath. I'm Vanessa Callahan, a paralegal who paid every bill that kept this home alive. Yet that night, surrounded by the very people who thrived on my sacrifices, I was branded a burden. The room fell quiet, heavier than any insult. Mother avoided my eyes, fingers twisting a napkin until it nearly tore, and my younger brother, Travis, leaned back with a smirk, sipping slowly as though he had been waiting for this moment. Cousin Haley's wide eyes darted between us, her lips pressed shut, the only one who seemed to feel the cruelty of what had just been said. In that frozen moment, I wanted to speak, to shout, to lay out every truth right there. How dare you call me deadweight when my name is on every bill stacked in that kitchen drawer? Lone Star Power, the electricity that kept these lights burning, is under my account. AT&T Fiber, the internet that streamed their favorite shows, is paid from my paycheck. State Farm Insurance, covering every car in this driveway, is on my card. Even the medication Mother collected last week is covered by my plan. Every light, every comfort, every necessity in this house bore my name. But Father looked at me like I was a trespasser squatting in a home where I didn't belong. "Did you hear me?" he demanded, voice rising. "I want you out by the weekend." My pulse raced, but I forced my hand to stay steady. I set down the fork, smoothed the napkin beside my plate, and lifted my eyes to his. "I understand," I said evenly. Not because I agreed, but because I finally understood what I had been too blind to see. I wasn't a daughter. I was a walking bank account. The irony stung. Just 20 minutes earlier, I had shared the news of my promotion at the law firm. They clapped politely, pretending to care. But this moment revealed the truth. My value wasn't measured by who I was, but by what I could pay. Then Mother spoke, her voice small and hurried, not to defend me, but to ask, "You'll still cover the health insurance this month, right?" "I have an appointment Tuesday." I stared at her, stunned. Not one word for me. Not 1 ounce of support. Just another demand. I swallowed the bitterness and answered calmly, "Of course. I'll take care of it before I go." As I rose to clear the plates, Haley's gaze caught mine. She didn't speak, but her fingertips brushed against my wrist for the briefest moment, a fleeting gesture of solidarity in a room otherwise void of compassion. That single touch meant more than all the empty silence around me. Later, a bank statement in the kitchen, revealing their hidden accounts, would unravel their lies. And I promised myself their hidden accounts exposed by a bank statement would be my weapon. The plates clattered faintly in the sink as I rinsed away gravy no one had truly savored. The kitchen light flickered once before steadying, and I almost laughed. Even the electricity in this house ran because of me. Leaning against the counter with my hands damp from soap and water, I thought about how easily Father had dismissed me. A paralegal who worked 60-hour weeks, who kept this home running like a silent engine, reduced to dead weight. My contributions lay everywhere, from fridge to drawer. On the fridge door, a receipt from Lone Star Power pinned under a magnet shaped like Texas. The amount circled in blue ink, $140. $67 charged to my account. Beside it, the internet bill from AT&T Fiber, my name across the top. In the drawer by the oven, an auto insurance statement from State Farm, listing every Callahan car under my policy. And tucked inside my handbag, the pharmacy slip for the blood pressure medication Mother had picked up last week, covered by my plan. Every corner of this house whispered my name. Yet at that table I had been erased. The emptiness in my chest deepened, as if I stood alone in my own home, forsaken by family. Father's bitter words by the fence came back to me. Weeks earlier, I had overheard him tell our neighbor, voice low but sharp, "A man can't lose control of his own house," his pride wounded as my paychecks overshadowed his authority. At the time, I brushed it aside. Now the memory stung like acid. In the dining room, Travis's smirk lingered in my mind, his quiet as damning as his taunts at the table. Cousin Haley slipped into the kitchen, clutching her empty glass, her eyes fixed on the floor. For a moment, I thought she would leave without speaking. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "I'm sorry." A lump rose in my throat. "You have nothing to apologize for." Her eyes shimmered. "They've been plotting for weeks. Dad said once you covered November, they'd—" She stopped herself, the words breaking off. The realization struck hard. They had waited for the perfect moment for me to pay every utility, every insurance premium, every grocery bill, before delivering their verdict. This wasn't anger. It was calculation. Haley's voice trembled. "I wanted to warn you, but Dad threatened me. He said if I opened my mouth, I'd be next." I looked at her, and the fear in her face was undeniable. 17, caught in the same web of manipulation I was only now recognizing. "You've done more than enough," I told her gently. More than anyone else at that table. Her hand brushed mine again, lingering a second longer than before, a small act of defiance, hinting at secrets she might share. I knew then the truth wouldn't stay buried, not forever. Somewhere in this house, there had to be evidence stronger than receipts pinned to a fridge. When I pulled open a drawer beneath a pile of grocery flyers, my pulse spiked. A paper statement peeked out. I slid it free, careful not to crumple the edges. At the top, in bold letters, was Father's name. The balance stunned me, thousands of dollars saved for a boat, untouched while I drained my savings to keep this house alive. He hadn't been powerless. He had been hoarding. I folded the statement, slid it into my handbag, and forced my expression calm as Haley looked on. "They think I'll walk away quietly," I whispered. But inside, the decision was already made. I wouldn't leave silently. I would leave with evidence of their greed. I carried the folded bank statement upstairs, its edges pressing sharp lines into my palm. The paper felt heavier than it should have, as if it carried the weight of every betrayal I had ignored. In my room, I locked the door and spread the paper on the desk. My father's name glared back at me in bold print. The balance stunned me, $20,000 sitting untouched. The chair caught me as I sank. While I scraped together overtime hours, while I skipped meals to stretch my paycheck, he had been stockpiling money. And in the memo line of several deposits, a single word repeated, "boat." And for years, I thought his frustration stemmed from pride at my higher earnings. But this wasn't pride. This was concealment. He had let me shoulder every bill while he funneled his earnings into a new truck. Travis's satisfied grin at the table flashed in my mind, as cruel as Father's scheme. The thought that my labor had bought them luxuries while I lived on ramen left a bitter taste rising in my throat. A hand pressed to my chest steadied me. The emptiness from downstairs turned to anger, sharp and pulsing, as years of betrayal burned through me. This wasn't just financial neglect. It was strategy. My gaze shifted to the closet. I pulled down a shoebox tucked high on the shelf. Inside were months of receipts I had saved, a habit I once thought pointless. Grocery slips, pharmacy printouts, and appliance warranties. A record of every sacrifice I had made. I added the bank statement to the pile. For the first time, the papers didn't feel like clutter. They felt like weapons. A soft knock startled me. Haley's voice floated through, barely audible. "Vanessa, are you okay?" I hesitated, then opened the door. She slipped inside quickly, eyes darting down the hall before I closed it again. Her gaze landed on the bank statement across the desk. "You found it," she whispered, her eyes hinting at more secrets she knew. You knew? My voice cracked sharper than I intended. She nodded, guilt clouding her features. I heard them talking. Dad said it was smart to keep it hidden, that you'd never think to look. A cold shiver crawled down my spine. They had plotted openly, confident I was too blind, too trusting to notice. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, though I already sensed the answer. Haley's shoulders slumped. Because if I did, they'd turn on me. I'm sorry, Vanessa. I reached for her hand. You're doing more than you realize. Just being here takes courage. Her lips trembled. What will you do? I folded the statement carefully, sliding it into the shoebox. I don't know yet, but I won't let them bury me while they sit on hidden accounts. Haley looked at me with a mix of fear and admiration. For a moment, I saw the child who once trailed behind me in the backyard, begging me to push her on the swing. I squeezed her hand. You deserve better than this house of lies. A floorboard creaked outside. We both froze. Footsteps passed, slow and deliberate. Father's shadow stretched under the doorframe, pausing. My heart hammered. After a long silence, the shadow moved on. Haley's whisper shook. He doesn't trust you anymore. A bitter laugh escaped me. Good. He shouldn't, because now the balance had shifted. I wasn't just the daughter who paid the bills. I was the woman holding the proof. And proof would rewrite their story. Sleep eluded me. Morning light slipped through the blinds, pale and cold. The shoebox of receipts sat open on my desk, the bank statement folded neatly on top. Evidence of betrayal rested inches from me, yet it wasn't the only secret waiting to surface. Haley knocked softly before slipping into my room again. Her hair was still damp from a shower, her school bag slung loosely on one shoulder. She shut the door and whispered, "There's more you need to know about their lies." My stomach tightened. More? She nodded. About Mom. Rising slowly, I paced the room, bracing for the blow. Those doctor appointments she brags about, Haley said carefully. They weren't for checkups. I saw the receipts in her purse. Botox. Fillers. She used your insurance card to cover part of it, then paid cash for the rest. Thousands. The air thickened. I had always wondered why her skin looked smoother than women half her age. I had assumed expensive creams, maybe spa treatments she justified with excuses. But Botox with my insurance? Haley's eyes searched mine, pleading. She even laughed once, told Dad she found a way to get medical coverage for beauty. He said you'd never find out. The emptiness in my chest flared into raw heat, as years of being their scapegoat left me utterly alone. My labor funded their luxuries while I lived on instant noodles. I stopped pacing, fury boiling through my veins. I starved myself while she injected my health plan into her forehead. I skipped groceries so she could erase laugh lines. Haley bit her lip, shame heavy on her young face. I didn't want to tell you, but after last night, you deserve to know everything. I steadied my breath. You did the right thing. Relief flickered across her expression. Then she lowered her voice. There might be papers in her vanity. Receipts of Botox treatments tucked among makeup brushes and perfume bottles. I heard her brag once that she kept them for discounts. My pulse quickened. Receipts in her vanity, concrete evidence of waste and fraud. I'll find them, I murmured. A sudden knock thundered from the hallway, making us both jump. My mother's voice followed, sharp and impatient. Haley, are you in there? We're leaving soon. Don't make me wait. Haley's eyes widened. She grabbed her bag, whispered, "Be careful," and slipped out, leaving me alone with the shoebox and the echo of her words. I sat on the bed, every muscle tense. The betrayal ran deeper than I had imagined. Father hoarding money for a new truck. Mother stealing my insurance for injections. Travis, smirking through it all, complicit in their deception. The family I sacrificed for had turned me into their safety net, their scapegoat, and their silent benefactor. I closed the shoebox, pressing my palm firmly against the lid as if sealing in the truth. My mind shifted from shock to resolve. If Haley was right, the receipts and Mother's vanity would expose everything. Later, when the house grew quiet, I would search. And if I found what I expected, slips of paper marked with dates, clinics, and charges, those would become part of the arsenal I was building. Not clutter, not scraps, weapons. Because the truth, hidden in drawers and purses, would no longer stay buried. And I promised myself I would leave carrying evidence that turned their polished image into ruin. That evening, the house felt heavier than ever. Shadows stretched long across the walls, pressing in on me like silent judgment. Cross-legged on the floor, I faced the shoebox of receipts spread open before me. Every slip of paper told of sacrifices made. Grocery receipts, where I had chosen store brands to save a few dollars. Pharmacy printouts listing medications that weren't mine. Warranty cards for the sofa, the TV, and the refrigerator, all bought with my money but claimed as family property. The record of my sacrifices lay before me, no longer quiet clutter. Together they formed a shield. The phone came out, hand steady now. One by one, I snapped pictures of each receipt. Digital copies meant permanence. Even if they tried to throw the papers away, the evidence would remain. Then I opened my email and began attaching files to a draft addressed to Aaron Maddox, my closest friend since college and now a law student working at a firm. Aaron had always told me, "Keep receipts, Vanessa. One day you might need them." Tonight I finally understood. As the files uploaded, my chest ached with shame and relief as years of their greed left me forsaken. I typed a message with careful words. If anything happens, these documents show where my money went. I'll explain everything when we meet. The clock ticked past midnight. Down the hall, Travis's cruel laugh echoed, mocking my pain. It grated against me, a reminder that he wasn't just a bystander. He enjoyed my humiliation. I clenched my jaw and turned back to the receipts. Their deception ran deeper than pride. It was greed wrapped in entitlement, polished into something they dared to call family loyalty. A quiet knock broke my focus. Haley slipped into the room, shutting the door quickly. "You're packing, aren't you?" I nodded. "I can't stay here." Her voice dropped. "They'll try to take the sofa, the TV, even your laptop." I met her eyes. "That's why I'm documenting everything. If they touch what I bought, I'll have evidence." Haley's lips trembled. "I'll help you. I know where Mom hides her Botox receipts." I placed a hand on her shoulder. "Not tonight. It's too dangerous." She swallowed hard but nodded. "Then promise me you won't leave without telling me." "I promise." After she left, I slipped my laptop into its case and tucked the shoebox of receipts into a duffel bag. My clothes could wait. Tonight, the essentials were evidence and survival. As I zipped the bag shut, the air carried the faint trace of Mother's perfume, floral and sharp, lingering like a warning. I paused at the window, staring out at the quiet street. A thought pulsed through me. Leaving wouldn't be enough. They had used me like a lifeline, then branded me expendable. If I walked away without a fight, they would twist the story and paint me as the villain. No. This time, the truth would travel with me. And tomorrow, my plan to expose their lies would begin. Morning came brittle and gray. My duffel bag sat ready by the door, the shoebox buried beneath folded clothes. I thought the house would stay silent, but silence never lasts in a family built on lies. The phone buzzed first. A voicemail from Aunt Eleanor. Her voice was sharp, almost trembling with anger. "Vanessa, how could you? Walking out on your parents right before the holidays? After everything they've done for you?" I gripped the phone tighter. My parents hadn't wasted a second. They had already twisted the story, painting me as the selfish child abandoning her family. Not long after, another message came, this one from a cousin I barely spoke to. I heard you stormed out. People are saying you refuse to help anymore. How could you treat your own parents that way? Each word was a dagger. They were spreading poison through every relative, rewriting history before my side could even be told. Cross-legged on the bed, the duffel loomed before me, heart pounding. My family hadn't just cut me off. They had launched a smear campaign. The irony was bitter, as my sacrifices funded their lies. For years, I had kept them afloat. Yet now, the same people eating meals I paid for were telling the world I was ungrateful. I opened the laptop and read the drafts I had sent to Aaron the night before. Every receipt stared back at me like a steadfast record. Grocery slips, utility bills, insurance statements. The proof would remain. My chest ached with rage and sorrow, as years of being their scapegoat left me utterly forsaken. The floor creaked outside. Travis's mocking voice drifted down the hall, reveling in my pain. Guess Vanessa finally showed her true colors. His laugh followed, cruel and deliberate, echoing the smirk from that dinner table. A hand pressed against the desk steadied me. They wanted me broken. They wanted me to crumble under the weight of their accusations. But I had evidence. Another knock broke through my thoughts. Haley slipped inside, shutting the door quickly. Her face was pale. They've called Aunt Eleanor, cousins. Mom even told them you refused to pay for her doctor visits. A bitter laugh escaped me. Doctor visits. She didn't mention the Botox, did she? Haley shook her head. She won't, but I know where Mom hides her Botox papers, under her jewelry box. I met her eyes. If we can get them, they'll have no ground to stand on. Her voice trembled. Be careful. If she catches you... I rested my hand on hers. I won't be careless. For a moment, her grip tightened as though she carried all the fear I refused to show. Then she let go, whispering, I'll distract her when the time comes. After she left, I sat back, staring at the shoebox. The family's lies were multiplying faster than I could answer them. But the truth was in my hands, waiting to be revealed. The phone buzzed again. Another voicemail, this one colder than the rest. You've humiliated this family, Vanessa. Don't bother coming back. I deleted it without listening further. Their story was spreading, but mine was building. And soon it wouldn't be just whispered accusations or voicemails. It would be the truth, loud enough to silence their lies. The storm broke that evening. Father's footsteps thundered down the hall, heavy and unrelenting. The air itself seemed to tense, waiting for impact. My door rattled under his fist. Open it, Vanessa. I stayed seated at the desk, laptop glowing faintly, the shoebox of receipts tucked safely in the duffel bag at my feet. The pounding came again. You think you can lock me out of my own house? Slowly I stood, my legs trembling but my back straight. When I opened the door, his face filled the frame, red, strained, and seething with barely contained rage. What is this nonsense you're spreading? He snapped. Your mother says you're making wild accusations. Travis tells me you've been snooping. You've lost your mind. My voice stayed low but steady. I haven't lost anything. I've kept records. While you hoarded money for a new truck, I kept this family alive. And I have proof. His jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he might strike me. Instead, he shoved past, storming into the room. His eyes scanned the desk, the shelves, the bag near my chair. You've been digging where you don't belong. His voice dropped lower, darker. This is my house. My money. You don't get to question me. A sharp laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Your house? Without my paychecks, the lights would be off, the internet gone, the insurance canceled. You didn't just need me, you used me. His hand slammed against the desk, rattling the lamp. Careful what you say. The sound carried down the hall. Haley's door cracked open, her pale face peering out. Father turned his glare toward her, and she shut it quickly, retreating to silence. But not before our eyes met, and I saw the terror mirrored in hers. I drew a breath, pushing past the knot in my throat. You can scare Haley into silence. You can smear my name with relatives. But you can't erase the records. They're not in one place anymore. Even if you destroy this box, the files already exist. And his eyes flickered, a flash of panic breaking through the fury. He knew I wasn't bluffing. He lunged for the duffel bag. My reflexes surged, and I pulled it toward me, hugging it tight against my chest. You'll regret this, he hissed, his face inches from mine. Families don't forgive traitors. The word traitor sliced deeper than I expected. After years of sacrifice, after nights of exhaustion, after every dollar I poured into this home, he had the audacity to call me that. My hands tightened around the bag, my voice sharp. If defending myself makes me a traitor, then maybe I never belonged here. His eyes narrowed, breath hot with anger. For a moment, the room held its breath. Then he stepped back, forcing a bitter smile. You think you're clever, but no one will believe you. We've already told everyone who you are. I met his smile with calm steel. Then they'll see for themselves when the truth comes out. He turned and left, the door slamming so hard the frame shook. The silence that followed was heavy, almost suffocating. I sank onto the bed, clutching the duffel. My pulse pounded in my ears, but beneath the fear was something else, resolve. He had shown his hand. Rage was his weapon, but mine was patience and proof. A soft creak drew my gaze. Haley slipped back into the room, her eyes wide with worry. Are you okay? I nodded, though my hands still trembled. Her voice quivered. He won't stop, Vanessa. He'll try to destroy everything you have. I steadied my breath, forcing a thin smile. Then I'll make sure what I have can't be destroyed. Because one truth had crystallized tonight, this was no longer about leaving quietly. It was about preparing for the storm that was still to come. By the next morning, the house no longer felt like home. Every creak in the floorboards, every muffled sound, carried the sting of betrayal. Travis's mocking laugh still echoed in my mind, fueling their lies. With the duffel slung over my shoulder, I slipped out before sunrise. The air was cold and sharp, a welcome contrast to the suffocating heat of last night's confrontation. My car waited at the curb, one of the few things truly mine, its insurance and payments tied to my name alone. The drive into the city was quiet, the streets still half asleep. Their voices echoed in my head, father's rage, mother's false innocence, Travis's cruel laughter. But louder than all of it was my vow. I would not walk away empty-handed. I parked outside a cafe near Aaron's campus, the one where we had once spent long nights cramming for exams. Inside, Aaron was already waiting, books stacked beside her, coffee steaming in front of her laptop. When she saw me, her eyes widened. Vanessa, she said softly, pulling me into a hug. I got your email. Are you all right? The chair opposite her caught me as I sank. Not really. But I'm done being their scapegoat. Aaron's gaze sharpened, the same focus she used when dissecting a case. Show me. I placed the shoebox on the table, pulling out the contents. Grocery slips, utility bills, and insurance statements. Pharmacy charges. Finally, the folded bank statement. Her eyes scanned each page, her brows knitting tighter with every line. This is solid, Vanessa. These aren't scraps. This is a record of exploitation. If you wanted, you could take this to court. The words settled over me like armor. For so long, I had felt powerless. But now, with someone else acknowledging the truth, strength flickered back to life. They twisted the story, painting me as a selfish deserter, I said quietly. They've called Aunt Eleanor, Cousin Lisa, spreading lies. If I don't fight back, I'll be the villain forever. Aaron leaned closer, voice firm. Then you fight smart. I'll help you use this documentation to beat their gossip. Her certainty steadied me. For the first time in days, my chest loosened. Yet beneath it all, my chest ached with rage and sorrow, as their betrayal left me utterly alone in my fight. We kept sorting the papers, Erin moving with the precision of someone trained to find patterns. She paused at one pharmacy slip. "This prescription isn't for you." My jaw tightened. "It's not." "That's Mother's Botox clinic disguised under my plan. Haley told me she keeps more receipts hidden." Erin's lips pressed into a thin line. "That's insurance fraud. Combined with this bank statement, it paints a clear picture. They used you, Vanessa. And they left a trail." Her words cut, but also healed. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't exaggerating. I was right. The cafe door opened and I stiffened. Through the glass, I caught sight of Aunt Eleanor stepping inside, her eyes sweeping the room. She hadn't spotted me yet, but her presence froze my veins. Erin followed my gaze. If she's here, then word is spreading faster than I thought. I shoved the papers back into the box, lowering my voice. "They'll try to corner me, Erin. To paint me as unstable. I can't let them." Erin's hand closed over mine. "You've got the proof. And now you've got me." A nod confirmed my resolve. The knot in my chest loosened just slightly. But as Aunt Eleanor's eyes swept closer to our table, a chill ran through me. They weren't just gossiping anymore. They were closing in, but my proof would stop them. The call came in the afternoon. Aunt Eleanor's voice, sharp and commanding, demanded I come to her house that evening. "We need to clear the air. The family deserves the truth." I almost laughed. Their version of truth had already spread like wildfire, but something in her tone told me this wasn't just gossip anymore. This was a summons. I arrived with the duffel at my side, its weight a constant reminder of what I carried. The living room was already full. Aunt Eleanor sat on the sofa like a judge presiding over a trial. Cousin Lisa hovered near the kitchen door, arms crossed. And on the far side, my parents and Travis waited, their expressions carved from stone. The air reeked of tension. "Vanessa," Father began, voice smooth now, almost rehearsed. "We only wanted to help you, but you've been spreading lies. You're unstable, making wild accusations about this family." Mother leaned forward, pearls catching the light. "You're trying to destroy us with baseless claims." "How could you?" Travis smirked, his voice dripping with mockery. "She's desperate for attention, that's all." The words pierced, but this time I didn't flinch. I set the duffel on the table, unzipping it slowly. "You've told your side. Now they'll hear mine." Receipts spilled across the table in neat stacks. Grocery slips, utility bills, and insurance statements lined up like soldiers. Finally, I placed the folded bank statement on top. Aunt Eleanor frowned. "What is this?" "The truth," I said, steadying my voice. "For years I paid every bill in that house. Electricity, internet, insurance, even medications. My name is on every account. These papers prove it." I held up the bank statement. While I was working overtime and skipping meals, Father was hoarding money for a new truck. Thousands of dollars, untouched. Gasps rippled across the room. Aunt Eleanor's eyes narrowed at Father, but he raised his chin defiantly. "That's nonsense," when he barked. "She's twisting everything." I turned to Mother. "Because Haley told me where you hide your Botox receipts. Using my insurance card for cosmetic injections isn't just selfish, it's fraud." Mother's face paled, her hands tightening on her lap. Cousin Lisa stepped closer, eyes wide. "Is this true?" Mother stammered. It's not what it looks like." My chest burned with both fury and freedom. "No, it's exactly what it looks like. You called me a burden while you used me as your personal bank. You smeared my name to everyone here, but this proof shows who you really are." And for the first time, Travis lost his grin. He shifted uneasily, eyes darting between the papers and the faces in the room. Father's voice thundered. "Enough, these are family matters. You don't air dirty laundry to outsiders." A bitter laugh escaped me. Outsiders! You turned them into judges the moment you dragged my name through the mud. Now they'll know the full story. The room erupted in arguments, voices clashing like waves. Some relatives demanded explanations, others defended my parents blindly. But no one could ignore the receipts staring up from the table. In the chaos, Aunt Eleanor raised her hand, silencing the room. Her eyes locked on me, cold and appraising. Vanessa, you've brought your case. But you should know, exposing them means cutting ties forever. Are you ready for that? Her words struck deep, but I already knew the answer. I looked around the room, the family who had drained me dry, who had branded me unstable, who had plotted behind closed doors. Then I thought of Haley's trembling voice, Aaron's steady support, the years of sacrifice carved into each receipt. A nod confirmed my resolve. I'm ready. But as the words left my lips, Father leaned closer to Mother, whispering something I couldn't hear. Her eyes widened, flicking toward me with a look that made my stomach twist. There was still more they hadn't revealed. And whatever it was, they planned to use it against me. The living room had fallen into silence after my words. Dozens of eyes lingered on me, on the shoebox of receipts, on the bank statement that glared like a spotlight. Father broke it first, his voice hard but thinner than before. You think scraps of paper make you righteous? Families forgive mistakes. You should learn your place. I met his stare. You used me as your bank for years. It was never about family, it was about control. Mother's pearls shook against her collarbone as she whispered, Vanessa, you'll regret this. Family is all you have. The words stung as years of betrayal left me utterly forsaken in my own family. Once I would have believed her. But tonight, surrounded by their lies, I understood something I had ignored for years. Family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shares your burdens. I thought of Haley, her eyes bright with unshed tears, risking all to reveal their lies. Erin's face surfaced in my memory, her certainty grounding me. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. I turned back to the room. You smeared me as a burden while draining every cent I earned. But I won't let you rewrite my story anymore. Every slip of paper is a testament to what I gave. Every bill shows who really kept this family standing. And every lie you spread will crumble against the weight of proof. Gasp stirred again. Cousin Lisa shook her head slowly, murmuring, She has the records. How can we ignore this? Father's hand slammed against the armrest. Enough, this family doesn't need an audience for its shame. But the shame was already laid bare. The receipts returned to the shoebox, the lid pressed down with finality. My voice stayed calm. You wanted me silent. But silence only protects liars. I will not carry that silence anymore. Rising, I felt the duffel strap cut against my shoulder. You smeared me to everyone in this room. Tonight you exposed yourselves instead. Their faces blurred together, rage, shock, denial. But none of it touched me. I walked out, the air outside cool and clean against my skin. The night sky stretched above, vast and unyielding. For the first time in years, I felt the weight lifting. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine. I thought of the lessons carved into my heart. That loyalty without respect is chains, not love. That silence in the face of exploitation only feeds greed. That receipts, no matter how small, are voices of truth waiting to be heard. And most of all, that sometimes the family we're born into is not the family we're meant to keep. I tightened my grip on the duffel, the proof safe inside. This wasn't just my survival. It was my rebirth. As I drove away, the house shrinking behind me, I whispered to myself, they tried to erase me. But I will be remembered, not for their lies, but for my justice. The story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to anyone who had ever been silenced, anyone who had ever been used, anyone who had ever been called too much or not enough by the very people they tried to love. And if you're listening now, maybe you've carried that silence too. Maybe you've held your own hidden proof in a drawer, doubting whether your pain was real. Let this be your reminder: your truth matters. Your voice matters. Don't let anyone rewrite your story. Share your story with Heartless Revenge, where others with hidden proof find their voice so no one feels alone. Because in the end, it will be justice, loud enough to silence their lies.